Council meeting for Tuesday, March 26, 2024. I have obviously the task of chairing the meeting here, so bear with me as it's the first meeting that I'm chairing here. I'd like to call to order the meeting at 5:59, and just for a little bit of context, we have two councillors who are absent, Councillor Van Nieuwerk and Councillor McCook, and we have Mayor Danelik joining us online. As is tradition, I would like to start off the meeting with a land acknowledgement. The City of Beaumont respects the histories, languages, and cultures of all First Peoples of this land, whether they be of First Nation, Métis, or Inuit descent, and appreciates that their presence continues to enrich vibrant communities across the land. As we gather here in Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis Nation, we acknowledge that we are all treaty people and have ongoing responsibilities to protect and honor treaty and inherent rights of the people and the land. Moving on to the next item here, I would like to, we have a proclamation to read. So it's National Safe Digging Month for April 2024, whereas each year the integrity of Alberta's underground infrastructure is jeopardized by damage during ground disturbance activities caused by those who fail to call or click before you dig. And whereas the consequences of damage to buried facilities can include service disruption, environmental contamination, property damage, personal injury, and even death. And whereas the Alberta Common Ground Alliance and its members promote the principles of damage prevention best practices, including the need to call or click before you dig. And whereas ground disturbers, including contractors, homeowners, and landowners, can save time and money and keep our province safe and connected by following damage prevention best practices, including making that one simple call to Alberta One Call. And whereas the stakeholders in the buried facility damage prevention process, the digging community, buried facility owners, operators, buried facility locators, regulatory agencies, training organizations, and the One Call Center all agree that the prevention of damage to buried facilities is a shared responsibilities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Councillor Natellenbos, do hereby proclaim April 2024 as National Safe Digging Month in the City of Beaumont, Alberta, dated the 26th day of March 2024. Next on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. So, Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the current agenda?
Thank you, Chair. Administration has two items that they would like to suggest for amendment this evening. We would like to postpone item 6.2, RV sanitary dump design update, and item 6.10, Councillor Penrod's motion following notice, contributions of local healthcare providers to the April 9th, 2024 regular council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Any councillors willing to accept the amended motion to adopt the agenda?
Thank you, Chair. I'll move that the March 26, 2024 council agenda be adopted with the change proposed to postpone item 6.2, RV sanitary dump design update, and 6.10, Councillor Penrod motion following notice.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor. We'll vote on that, Council.
In favor.
Thank you, Mayor. So that vote's unanimous to accept the amended adoption of the agenda. Just moving on here in terms of our schedule for today. In terms of adoption of agenda minutes, or pardon me, I will continue to ask Madam Chair here if we have anyone attending for open forum.
Thank you, Chair. We did not have any registrations for open forum this evening.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Moving on to the next item of business is the consent agenda. Just reviewing the consent agenda, Madam Clerk, can you please put the consent agenda on the screen and read through it for us, please?
Thank you, Chair. The following items are on the consent agenda for this evening. The regular council meeting minutes of March 12th, 2024. The council approved the minutes of the March 12th, 2024 regular council meeting as presented. The special council meeting minutes of March 19th, 2024. The council approved the minutes of the March 19th, 2024 special council meeting as presented. The 6.1 Rink Shack and Zamboni Garage Design update, that the March 26, 2024 report, Rink Shack and Zamboni Garage Design be received as information. 6.5 request for extension, council policy C14 purchasing policy, that by the end of the first quarter of 2024, administration conduct a review of C14 purchasing policy and provide a report on possible updates and enhancements, including things such as greater clarity for definitions and more detail on the various processes such as requirements to obtain bids when public calls are required to the audit process to confirm compliance. Original due date was March 26, 2024. Revised due date is June 25th, 2024. 6.6, request for council review of Municipal Government Act, Section 545 and Section 546 orders. There is no recommendation. 6.7, the Yellowhead Regional Library Board appointment, that the appointment as set out in attachment 1 to the Yellowhead Regional Library Executive Committee be approved, and for the term to take effect immediately and expire no later than December 31st, 2024. And item 6.8, the letter of support for the Beaumont Curling Club, that the mayor on behalf of council sign a letter of support for the Beaumont Curling Club's bid to host the Alberta Men's Provincial Championship. And item, my apologies, Chair, there is an item missing on here, and that is the regional initiatives update, and that is item 11.1. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is a member of council willing to move the consent agenda as presented, or are there any changes to the consent agenda? Councillor Monkhoff-Swain.
Just testing you here on your debut. So I will move the consent agenda as presented.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other comments in regards to that, or are we good to move forward with that? Perfect. We will proceed to a vote. Mayor Daniluk, how do you vote?
In favor, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, having some difficulty here with some voting. Okay, there we go. So that carries unanimously with 5 votes in favor. Moving on to the next item of business here would be moving on to adoption of the minutes. Do we have any councillor that's willing to move the motion to adopt the minutes? Okay, my apologies. Moving on to the next item here is the options for allowing alcohol in public parks. And it's my understanding that we have a presenter, Ms. Cueva, presenting.
Good evening, council and members of the public. My name is Grace Cueva, and I'm here to present options for allowing alcohol consumption in public parks in Beaumont. Administration is bringing forward options, and in the deliberations and considerations, administration considered safety, making sure that is paramount, limited exposure to family amenities and sports fields, as well as ensuring that city resources are adequate or could be accommodated to include the proposed changes moving forward. Administration identifies Four Seasons Park and Lions RV Park as suitable locations, and the options proposed today are as follows. Option 1 is to expand the alcohol consumption from a picnic site to a designated area in the Four Seasons Park. The designated area can be seen in attachment 1 as an overhead map, and that is on page 31 of your agenda, as the attachments aren't currently labeled. The estimated cost associated is up to $2,500. Option 2 is to allow consumption in designated areas in Lions RV Park. And again, the overhead map can be seen in attachment 2 or a page 32 of your agenda. The cost associated would be up to $3,500. And these estimate costs do include the installation and the purchasing of signage. Administration does not propose altering other parameters from the 2023 pilot program. The parameters will allow alcohol consumption in designated areas as per option 1 or 2 listed in the report between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. 7 days a week and from the months of June to September. The estimated costs are a one-time cost to be incurred. This includes for signage, as signage is essential to ensure that residents are aware of which areas are designated for consumption, as well as to mitigate risks that may be posed around a body of water, such as the Four Seasons Park. This one-time cost is not covered currently in the operating budget of 2024, and therefore administration does recommend that these costs be covered under the capital initiative, Council Capital Initiative Fund. If council proceeds with one of these options in the report, administration will prepare an amendment to the community standards bylaw, and that will be upcoming. That will allow the permission of alcohol consumption in public parks moving forward. That wraps up my report, and I welcome any questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all the information. Really appreciate it. Before we do hop into questions, I'm just wondering if there's a council member who would like to propose an option, and then maybe we could work our way from that in terms of a motion. Is there anyone that would like to propose a motion at this time? Yeah. Okay, Councillor Penrod.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to propose that or move that option 2, as set out in the March 26-24 council report, options for allowing alcohol in public parks be approved, and that funding in the amount of $3,500 from the Council Capital Initiative Fund for that one-time cost of signage be approved.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Penrod. Any discussion to that proposed motion? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Mayor today? I'm not sure if I should be saying Chair, but Councillor, thank you very much. Just one question for the administration. So the next steps after this, it's a community standards bylaw has to be revised before this can happen, or is that something that would be happening?
That is correct. The community standards bylaw would need to be amended prior to signage being installed and the program beginning.
Okay, and for that to happen, changes in bylaw have to be advertised, or does this one have to be advertised?
I would like to
The
direct
clerk
that
would answer that
question to.
Thank you.
Sorry, just waiting for my mic. Thank you, Councillor Barnhart, for the question. This is not an amendment that would require advertising. It is a very minor amendment. The change we would be making is basically an exemption to allow drinking in designated public parks, provided they have the signage, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very small change, and we would likely put that on a consent agenda because it is very focused editorial change.
Thank you for that. Just wanted to make sure that we had a process. If there were any residents that did want to say anything about this particular change, they'd have an access to council when that's coming forward again. So thank you very much.
Councillor Penrod.
Thank you, Councillor Natelmas. Yeah, so just to give a little bit of the rationale for proposing option 2, I think we heard at a previous meeting that I think we would characterize the pilot last summer as successful, but that we maybe realized that the parameters of it didn't give us the opportunity to really live into the spirit that it was suggested as. Maybe people were a little too tied to particular picnic tables, and we wanted to, and on the other side of that, we almost got no public feedback. So it just didn't seem to really create any strong feelings one way or the other. And so my hope here is to expand so that we can actually this summer have a bit of those experiences, like have a family picnic where people are maybe throwing a Frisbee around. I think that was the example that was given last time, without feeling like they have to have one hand on the picnic table at all times. The other thing I'll say is that the additional designated area just off of the Lions Park is immediately behind my house. So if any of my neighbors would like to chat about how this maybe impacts us, I'd love to have those conversations. I did also note in the report, I was appreciative of the mention that this won't infect any of the city's insurance and that the insurance that we have is adequate. Some folks might have had questions around the proximity to the lake or to 50th Street, but happy to see that. And happy to see too that we can enter into this extension of the pilot project, if we're still calling it a pilot, without any additional costs. These sites were chosen, as I understand it, particularly because they're already daily serviced. And so there's no additional or hidden cost to this program. So happy to support this program.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. Just a few quick comments for myself. I'm relatively indifferent towards this policy. However, it didn't seem to cause any issues previously, and some people had benefited from it. So yeah, given that scenario, it's something that I'm likely here to support. My only concern with the program is just making sure that we don't end up having glass all over, our parks, our playgrounds. So maybe just looking at defining the policy that captures something along those lines, maybe restricting what materials can be brought there, wine glasses, stuff like that. So just something to maybe consider. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the proposal. Okay, so given council has
Chair,
oh,
the mayor has a comment.
sorry, go ahead, Mayor Daniluk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. As you know, I am remote this evening. I apologize for that, but I read through all the reports. I can't see the report and the screen at the same time. So I do believe option 2, just for my clarification points, includes Four Seasons and the Lions Park, is my understanding. Can you please confirm that for me? That's my understanding of option 2, please, before I vote. Thank you. Or before we vote, pardon me. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. That is correct.
Thank you.
Perfect. It appears that there are no more questions or comments. With that being said, we can vote on the matter.
I'm in favor.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. I'll get better at that.
No
Hard.
problem. That's okay.
So that vote carries unanimously in favor of option 2 for allowing alcohol in public parks. Thank you so much for your report and the information. Moving on to the next item is a report in regards to additional dwelling units and taxes associated with it. This is information only, and I ask that a council member put forward the motion to accept this as information. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Councillor Talabas. I would gladly move that this be received for information.
Thank you. It appears that, okay, ID 15 requesting to speak? No, I will cancel. Okay, I will cancel. With that being said, any comments, concerns on the motion that's put forward? Okay, we will move forward to a vote. Mayor Daniluk, how do you vote?
In favor, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. That vote carries unanimously at 5 votes in favor. Moving on to the next item of business here. We have a motion following notice, environmental coordinator, full-time employment. I believe Councillor Penrod, that was a motion that you had brought forward there. Would you like to speak to that motion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, so just to clarify, the intent here is just reflecting on the report that we received recently, reminding us that the environmental master plan foresees a full-time environmental coordinator position, and that becomes fairly crucial as far as keeping us on track with our plans. Now, I also realize that those plans need to adjust over time, and so my intent here is obviously not to fund it. That conversation can't happen until budget time, but I do want to make sure that it's not a piece that is missed, and in some conversation with administration, I understood that it was not presented to us this year, just as it was reprioritized and other things were felt to be more pressing. And so I do like thinking to the next budget process. I like personally to have all the information possible in front of me so that we can listen hard to the community and respond with the priorities that we're hearing there. And so that's the real intent here, is just to make sure that we have a one-pager summarizing this piece coming into our next budget period. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Penrod. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Councillor Talabas. Just a question for the administration. Just wondering, is this a requirement for this year for the budget process to have us make motions to bring things forward? Because it feels like this could take a lot of time and energy to put motions forward for everything we want to see come forward. That usually happens in a different process. So I'm just a little hesitant. It's not that I disagree with this coming forward, so I don't want to vote against it, but I also want to know if we now have to do this for other items that we want to bring forward.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, Councillor Barnhart, through the mayor, acting mayor, to the rest of council and the public. The notice of motion, there's nothing preventing Councillor Penrod from doing that. And what I'm hearing him say is he just wants to make sure it doesn't get missed. As far as the budget process is concerned, we're going to bring back recommendations that we believe should be funded, and they'll go into the same process as we've done every other year to be debated by council and ultimately approved by council. So yeah, it's a little different way of doing it, but certainly that's within the notice of motion.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Councillor Monkoff Swain.
Yeah, thanks. And very similar to Councillor Barnhart's questions, aligned with getting it in there. I just wanted to confirm, so council kind of June, July-ish timeframe, and I'm not sure exactly when we kind of sit down and talk about some capital items that we wanted to discuss and make sure that admin put forward. I think that would, in my view, that was the time, hey, look, we also should get, so I'll support the motion, but I just want to confirm with administration that we're still planning to have that conversation where we put a list of kind of rough capital items for administration to consider, and then you guys put above or below the line.
Yeah, on behalf of our finance director, I can confirm that. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Any further discussion? Given that there's no further comments, we'll move to a vote. Mayor Daniluk, how do you vote?
In favor, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So that vote carries unanimously with 5 in favor. Moving on to item 6.10, Madam Clerk, it's my understanding that we are postponing this conversation and pushing it to, was it April? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that will be pushed forward to the next meeting. Just aligns better with the material that will be presented. Madam Chair, do we have any councillor inquiries, responses? Sorry, Madam Clerk, do we have any councillor inquiries, responses, or reports? Councillor Monkoff Swain.
Yeah, thanks. I'll move this, oh, I won't move, sorry. I will make this council inquiry before Sandy tells me off. In light of the recent registration day issues, please provide information on the following. What steps is administration undertaking to mitigate future issues, including software capabilities and alternatives, frequency of registration days, and any other steps to improve the registration process for customers?
Thank you, Councillor. Madam Clerk, just for clarity, is there any action on my side from that?
Thank you, Chair. No, once the councillors made the inquiry, we're good to move on to the next item.
Thank you. Mr. Schwartz, would you mind providing a CAO update?
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Through you to the rest of council and the public. We got a few items here. Start with infrastructure. As you've probably noticed, the street sweeping program it's in progress. Thanks to spring not trying hard enough to get here. It's been curtailed, but we'll get back on the roads here right off the bat. So asking people to be patient and keep your eyes open. There is considerable amount of sand and gravel that needs to be picked up, and we get that done, and then we get into the line painting program, which everybody loves. Water restrictions are in place between March 25th and 27th due to plan upgrades to the Water Commission fill station. So this is upgrades that are required to be able to allow us to deal with the capacity and the growth issues, not only in Beaumont, but the region. But this is something that was directed by the Water Commission. This week, if you haven't noticed, and I have, some of the furnishings went up in Centerville Park. Included the benches, picnic tables, and billards. Bollard lights and fire features are planned for installation in the spring of 2024. So the shade sales will go up once we finally see spring, because those sales cannot carry snow load. Community services, community volunteer income tax runs from March 4th to April 23rd. So eligible individuals have a simple tax situation can access volunteers to prepare them for them. We have 29 submissions so far. The Philip Key Un O Volunteer of the Year and Youth Volunteer for the Year nomination submissions deadline is March 21st. So if you know somebody who fits that criteria, please nominate them. And lastly, as we had briefed council with, there would see an increase of peace officer vehicles and Alberta environmental vehicles in Beaumont. And last week they were here. They were attending a dangerous goods on the highway inspectors course. We now have 2 more of our municipal enforcement officers who are certified in that. So that helps us provide our services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. I appreciate the update. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, Madam Clerk, it's my understanding we don't have any correspondence, nor do we have any notices of motion. Perfect. With that being said, this might have been the quickest meeting that we have had so far. So I think that's a win for myself. But in saying that, I'm looking to, oh, my apologies, Mayor Daniluk.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to have my hand just for a moment. Thank you, CEO Schwartz, for your update. As some of you know on council, I sit on the Water Commission, as is Councilor McCook and Councilman Newkirk. And the upgrades that they're doing is for the entire region, not just Beaumont. It's not an infrastructure problem in Beaumont. It's water upgrades done by the commission to serve the entire region of the commission, not just Beaumont. So it's a regularly scheduled thing, and it's a voluntary water ban that helps us work with the Water Commission. So it's good for the region, not just Beaumont specifically. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor, for sharing that information. Appreciate it. With that being said, we can move into adjournment. So that concludes our meeting at 6:31 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for attending.